Good morning. I am Judy Kling, co-chair of the Worship Committee and Worship Associate for this morning. Thanks to our readers this morning, Jackie and Richard Mahey, Sarah Russell, and Irv Schleifer, and our Zoom tech, Michael Bolero. Our opening words are from Martha Kirby Capo. In this hour, may we be open to a rededication of treasured friendships, a renewal of spirit. May we relinquish the worries and anxieties of the past week, if just for this hour, and regain our strength through this community of faith. Our gathering music for today is I Am Light by India Ari.
Things my family did. I am not the voices in my head. I am not the pieces of the brokenness inside. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light. I am light, I am light. I am light. I'm not the mistakes that I have made, or any of the things that caused me pain. I am not the pieces of the dream I left behind. I am light. 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 I am not the color of my eyes. I am not the skin on the outside. I am not my age. I am not my race. My soul inside is all light. All light. Oh, light, yeah, oh, light. I am light, I am light. I am light, I am light, yeah. I am divinity defined. I am the God on the inside. I am a star, a piece of it all. I am light.
Good morning. My name is Karma Amos, and I am honored to serve as the minister of the Unitarian Universalists of Central Delaware, and to welcome you to worship this morning. Whether this is your first time with us or you are here with us most weeks, we are glad that you're here today, and we hope that you'll find room in this community for your spirit. We continue to be grateful for the technology that allows us to worship together online and to continue building community in other ways. Thank you in advance for your patience and grace with any delays or glitches we might experience. Thanks again to Michael for being our Zoom tech today. And we are looking for a few more folks who may be willing to do that. So if you think you might be one of those people, please let us know. In addition to our worship each Sunday, we meet on Tuesday nights at 7 for a more informal time of check-in and sharing. Please consider joining us for that gathering. And this Tuesday night in particular, it's going to have a different shape. The Board of Trustees will be hosting a listening session about the UU 8th principle conversation. And we'd love to hear what you're thinking about that as we anticipate approving that at our annual meeting. If you don't know what that is, please come and find out. We will have another session to discuss this on the 23rd of May following worship. Come to one or both if you're able. There's also a worship committee meeting this week on Thursday at 6, and that's open. Please reach out to Judy if you'd like information on joining that meeting. Now I invite you to take a deep breath as we reaffirm our intentions to be a radically welcoming and loving community. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you've been, whatever you've done, whatever your religious beliefs are or aren't, you are welcome in this spiritual community. However you move in this world, how much or how little is in your bank account or your wallet, and however you are feeling in these moments, you and all of who you are welcome here. We're enhanced by being together.
Our chalice lighting words this morning are from the Oberlin UU Fellowship in Ohio. We light this chalice to find inner peace, love for each other, and faith in ourselves. Also, to be welcoming to whomever we meet and kind to all living creatures. So gather around and light this hope as we share this time together. There you see. Yeah. Go ahead.
Please join me for our Please join me in our unison affirmation. Words are in the chat box.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another together. Please join us by singing along in your word, in your own space, with our opening song, Gather the Spirit. This version is performed by David Rowe and Stacy Guthrie.
gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit of heart and mind, seeds for the sowing are laid in store, nurtured in love and conscience refined, with body and spirit united once more. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again. Gather the spirit growing in all, drawn by the moon and fed by the sun. Winter to spring and summer to fall, the chorus of life resounding as one. Gather in peace, gather in thanks, gather in sympathy now and then. Gather in hope, compassion and strength, gather to celebrate once again.
Good morning. Each week at UUCD, we include a brief UU moment in our worship service that serves to make us aware of and to nurture our connection to the larger body of Unitarian Universalists and the Unitarian Universalist Association that binds us together. For our UU moment today, we want to let you know that the annual UU General Assembly will be occurring this year once again, completely online. That means more people will not have to incur the expense of travel and lodging in order to attend this amazing event. The theme this year is Circle Round for Justice, Healing, and Courage, and it's being held from June 23 to 27. If you ever wanted to spend a few days diving deeper into the well of Unitarian Universalism, experience inspiring worship, and learn new skills through intense workshops on topics ranging from healing through indigenous storytelling. Also, they'll have Facing Down Classism to liberate our faith community and Making Art about grief and gratitude. The speakers for the Where Lecture, which is the central and most important lecture of the meeting this year, will be Stacey Abrams, well known to everyone, and Desmond Meade. And special this year, during the service of Living Tradition on June 24th, our own Reverend Dr. Karma Amos will join others who will be honored to receive credentialed status in preliminary fellowship as a UU minister. Let's celebrate her achievement together. The more people from UUCD who attend General Assembly, the more of us are ready to bring back the best ideas and inspiration to our own congregation. And if you'd like more information, you should visit uua.org/GA.
It is now our time of joys and concerns, when we offer one another the opportunity to share very briefly what is most on our hearts right now, life's celebrations and concerns. As you do so, we invite you to light a candle in your own space. Through the action of sharing and kindling a flame, we give energy to our best thoughts, meditations, sympathies, celebrations, and prayers. We hold these as sacred in our collective hearts. We would also like to invite anyone new to our community to introduce yourselves if you would like. We welcome you warmly and would be pleased to light a candle in your honor of your connection with us. and whatever joys and concerns you carry in your hearts. At this time, we invite you to change your view to gallery view in the upper right-hand corner of your screen so that you can see everyone who is here. As you feel led, please unmute your microphone and share your joy, concern, and light your candle if you have one. You can watch the mute signals on the lower left of each person's video stream to see if anyone else is on mute. It's best that we share one at a time. And then please mute your mic after you have shared. Okay. We light one final candle for the joys and concerns that were not spoken by those of us here today, and in solidarity with others in our community who could not be with us today. As Unitarian Universalists, a central part of our worship in person and online is the opportunity we all have to practice the art of generosity and the spiritual practice of gratitude. Our gifts to our congregations are what allow our communities to live into our calling and mission. We are grateful to you for the many ways you support our community, including your financial pledges and offerings. Your gifts matter, and it's one of the ways that you make this world a better place. Thank you for your passion and your generosity. For those who are making pledges or who want to contribute to UUCD, please visit www.uucd.org. Click on Support UUCD for more information about how to donate online. Our offertory for today is The Stories We Tell Ourselves by Edie Brickell.
It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves that make us happy, that make us crazy, that make us lonely, depressed and lazy. He doesn't like me, he's looking at me unkindly. She really loves me, but she only wants my money. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves that make us happy, that make us crazy. He doesn't drive well. Wish I had this road to myself. I'm in no hurry. There's nothing out there disturbs me. All alone I could see you waiting there. So all alone I could see you holding on. Because of you I'm so angry. I'm really lucky and no one can take it from me. All along I could see you waiting there. So all along I could see you holding on. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves. It's the stories we tell ourselves that make us happy, that make us crazy, that make us lonely, depressed and lazy.
Our reading this morning is from excerpts from Brene Brown in her book, Dare to Lead. The rumble starts with this universal truth. In the absence of data, we always make up stories. It's how we're wired. Meaning making is in our biology, and when we're in struggle, our default is often to come up with a story that makes sense of what's happening and gives our brain information as how to best self-protect. And it happens 100 times a day. When it comes to our emotions, the first stories we make up are definitely our fears and insecurities romping all over the place, making up worst case scenarios. Fear fills in the data gaps. The three most dangerous stories we make up are the narratives that diminish our lovability, divinity, and creativity. The difference between what we make up about our experiences and the truth we discover through the process of rumbling is where the meaning and wisdom of this experience live. This holds our key learnings. We just have to be willing to walk into our stories and rumble.
You may not know this about me, but I am a huge fan of the television series Top Chef. I love it. And the latest season, season 18, and yes, in case you're wondering, I have watched them all, including every spinoff. This season is filmed in Portland, Oregon, close to where I used to call home. And the first episode, as it happens, contains a pretty good illustration of the topic that I want to explore today. Now, on the off chance that you have not tuned into Top Chef, which I find it difficult to fathom, this is a cooking competition in which the best and most awarded chefs from all over the US compete with one another in a series of challenges. And they're working towards the prize of the title of Top Chef, obviously. Some great options for PR and exposure for their careers and their restaurants, as well as a cash award of $250,000. And each episode has a quick fire challenge, a fast cook-off where they compete for advantages and some smaller awards, and then a longer elimination challenge in which the person whose dish is deemed worst is eliminated from the competition. And in episode 1 this season, they had to cook a dish featuring one of the 5 birds most common in the Portland area: quail, duck, chucker, turkey, and squab. And the chefs all cooked their best dishes, which were then presented to the expert panel of judges in a blind tasting. So they didn't know who cooked which dish. Now, one of the show's features, like many competition programs, are little snippets of personal testimony when the chef, on their own and out of the hearing of others, shares what they're thinking. It's a brief window into their self-talk and how they're feeling about their own performance, the quality of their food. And this, of course, is before they know anything about what the judges actually think about it. So after the tasting in this particular episode, the host, Padma Lakshmi, comes and she calls 8 of the chefs of the 16, so half of them, to face the judges' table. It's a very intimidating kind of tribunal-like setting. And there are 2 perspectives that I want to highlight as I explain what happens. Several of the chefs who were not called out, those who remained in the chef's waiting room, automatically assumed the worst. One of them says, well, whoever wasn't called, we know we're in the bottom. And the others agree. They lament similarly, anticipating that they may be sent home. On the other hand, one of the chefs who was called, her name is Sarah, says with despair as she's going out the door, I'm pretty sure I put up the worst dish. Soon after, The judges ask 4 of those 8 who'd been called to stay up front and hear the judgment to stay there while the others step to the side. Both groups are wondering which category they're in, top favorite dishes or bottom least favorite dishes. And in the absence of data, they tell themselves a story to fill in the blanks. Almost without exception, the story they tell themselves is a bad story. I'm the worst dish, I'm going home. And the judges ask Sarah in particular, how are you feeling, Sarah? And she answers immediately by saying, terrible. And they say, terrible, why? And she responds, I would have done like 10 things differently. And then they reveal, well, the 4 of you are standing here because you had our favorite dishes of the day. Now, how do you feel, Sarah? And she said, well, I don't really know how that's possible. And then there is some nervous laughter before chef and co-host Tom Colicchio says to Sarah, yours felt like a very confident plate of food, and yet you're falling apart up here. When it came time to announce the winner, I'm sure you can guess where this is going. They said, the winner today showed themselves on the plate. It was absolutely delicious and creative, and something we'd want to return to again and again. And that winning chef is, insert long dramatic pause, Sarah, who then says with emotion, now I feel really stupid. I do need to feel more comfortable and confident about who I am. The difference between the actual reality and the assumed reality that she made up couldn't have been more evident and stark. But in all those minutes when she didn't know for sure, when she was wondering, she was suffering by inhabiting her invented bad story. And it felt, in her words, terrible. I wonder how many times something like this has happened to you, when you've filled in a gap in data with a bad story or imagined the worst case scenario. I'm fairly certain it happens to me multiple times a week, sometimes per day. In other words, way too frequently. What happens for most of us, we human types, is that when there is a gap in our knowledge, when we simply don't know what's happening or what other people are thinking, we make up a story. We fill in the blank. Our brains are actually wired to do this from the moment we're born until the day we die. I read an article about this just this week by brain researcher Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, a distinguished professor of psychology at Northeastern University. And she sums up the point of her article by saying that cutting edge neuroscience shows that your brain isn't so much made for thinking, it's made to predict your reality. And you have more power over that than you might think. We're constantly receiving data through our various senses from the outside world, and our brains, in the flash of a second, try to make meaning from that data, a lot of which is ambiguous. And so the brain makes connections with events from our past, things we've learned, books we've read, experiences that we've had before. The brain also has data from our inside world, what our body is feeling. You know, when our heart is racing, when we're feeling anxious or calm, whatever that might be. And in the swirl of all of that input, the brain uses that data to construct our experience and assist us in planning the next action to stay alive and thrive. In other words, our brains are telling us stories about what is happening and what that means for us. Now, especially when we're wondering about what other people are thinking or how they're feeling about us, the stories we make up are not particularly good or generous. We sometimes project critical thoughts and judgments that are built on the foundation of our own self-doubt. And before we fact check those stories to gauge their accuracy, we live with the resultant emotions of the bad stories. We experience all of the shame, the self-doubt, the self-loathing, and the anxiety of the completely false narrative that we ourselves have constructed. Brene Brown, the author of our reading for today, talks about the process that we go through when we do this by saying that the first story we make up is what she calls an SFD, a shitty first draft. Almost always, these drafts are shaped by our fears and insecurities having run amok. And the result is a mix of conspiracy theories and confabulations, that is, lies told honestly. She describes confabulation in a helpful way, I think, by saying that it is when we replace missing information with something false that we wholly believe to be true. And that is exactly what the contestants in Top Chef did when they said, I'm in the bottom, I'm going home, I put up the worst dish. One of the best practical suggestions that Brene makes is for us to make it an intentional and habitual practice to capture our SFDs, our draft stories, and bring them consciously to our awareness, and then give them voice, to ask questions to determine whether or not they're true, and to stop wasting our time with needless and anticipatory suffering. And the magic phrase that she uses and suggests we use for this practice to review, to edit, sometimes completely rewrite those drafts, is to simply say to ourselves this: the story I'm telling myself is, the story I'm telling myself is. One of my favorite colleagues, someone that I've worked very closely with for years, is an expert practitioner at this. I'm often in awe of her. Before she went into ministry, she retired as a naval commander and is often very business oriented. People often describe her as primarily a no-nonsense kind of person. She's also a student and a fan of Brene Brown. In our working situations, when confusion and misunderstanding are highly likely, especially when things feel really tense or conflicted or uncomfortable. For example, at that time in meetings when others start looking at their shoes, and it's probably the case that most of us are feeling our muscles tighten or that familiar lump in the pit of our stomachs, she will often say out loud to the group something like this: friends, the story I'm telling myself is that some of you think I made a mistake here, and you're just not saying anything because you don't want to hurt my feelings. And I'd like to invite you to simply say what you're really thinking. Her honesty in those moments almost always leads to a breakthrough for all of us. After hearing her courageously share her SFD story, the rest of us begin to relax, and we're able to say something like, oh, gosh, no. In fact, I think you were quite wise. But the story I'm telling myself is that I could have done things differently and better. I was being quiet because I felt bad and a little ashamed for having made a mistake myself. And the benefit of that exchange is immediate. Most of the time, just after that happens, we're able to move on, ready to be more collaborative, more creative, and to enjoy the collegiality and the work we share. By giving voice to the stories we're telling ourselves, Brown says it doesn't give the stories power, but it gives us power because they no longer have control over how we're feeling or reacting. We can begin to ask corrective questions like, does that sound right? Or what gaps have I just filled in? Are my assumptions correct? Or am I completing the blanks with what it is that I'm most insecure about or afraid of? It's brave and a little scary to be willing to practice this. But in my experience, cultures that promote this, right, environments when this type of thing is not only allowed, but expected, really can be transformative. Yet even knowing that, I don't do it nearly often enough. I confess that I am too often controlled by the stories I'm telling myself. And that storytelling is something all of us without exception do. We fill in the blanks and we run with them. And they have real effects on the quality of our lives, on the quality of our relationships. When the stories are, as they often are, rooted in fears and insecurities, they diminish the potential we have to experience joy, freedom, satisfaction, love, authentic connection, peace. In other words, it's a matter of significance. And speaking honestly about it, saying that magic phrase, the story I'm telling myself, and then learning ways to edit those stories could help us immensely to better be the people we want to be and to do the work we want to do in the world, both individually and together. Topics like the one we're exploring today can sometimes be seen as a bit too Oprah-ish, right? A little too self-helpy, perhaps even unworthy of a focus in worship. At least that's a story I've told myself before. But you know, this is one of those topics that is a somewhat universal part of being human. And what better place to talk about that than in a supportive spiritual community filled with other humans who are trying to live life more deeply, authentically, and meaningfully. I wonder what it would look like for us, UUCD, as a church community, to support one another in developing a practice like that of telling ourselves better stories. How would it feel if the culture of our community intentionally encouraged and expected people to experiment, sometimes awkwardly, with the kind of vulnerability that lets us check out our fears and apprehensions more freely and quickly, so that we can redirect the time and energy we might spend on nonsense into living more fully and creatively into our values and our principles. I don't know about you, but I have wasted too much time living in my own false narratives, and I'm not the better for having spent the time in that way. I'd like things to be otherwise. I imagine some of you might too. You know, sometimes when you become aware of something that had previously gone unnoticed, you then start to find examples everywhere. Like when you buy a new car and suddenly see them all over the road when you hadn't seen them before. Well, I had two more fill in the blank experiences just during the time I was writing this reflection. One happened in my own household and the other during a conversation with a friend. In each example, which I won't share to protect the innocent or the paranoid, as the case may be, in each example, the story the person made up in the absence of facts was not only causing them anxiety and making them feel awful, it was also just not true. And after some conversation, both of them made a courageous decision to go and check out those stories with the person whose actions or opinions they were concerned about. And for each, what a sigh of relief to be able to replace their SFD with what was actually true. In cases like this, the truth, as the saying goes, can set us free. Most of the time, it's a relief to be able to edit the story with what's real and often better. And on the more rare occasions that our SFD turns out to be accurate, when the thing we fear turns out to be the case, at least it's out there and can be dealt with. Either way, we can be freed of the fear, anxiety, and despair we sometimes feel because of the stuff we make up. At the conclusion of the book, Dare to Lead, Brene Brown says this: as you think about your own path, remember Joseph Campbell's wisdom. And Joseph Campbell said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Own the fear, find the cave, and write a new ending for yourself. Choose courage over comfort. Choose whole hearts over self-protective armor. And choose the great adventure of being brave and afraid at the exact same time. This seems to me to be good advice, advice I need to be reminded of frequently. And I hope we'll take it to heart together. Our closing song this morning is the song Comfort Me, which is in our teal hymnal and that we sing together in person. This version is by Lindley Wang from Star King Unitarian Universalist Church. Sing along in your own environment, if you will.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Speak for me, speak for me, speak for me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul.
Please join us in the words for extinguishing our chalice. The words are copied in the chat box. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
As we depart from one another, and these words are adapted from James Hobart, I'm sorry, I didn't say that first. As we depart from one another, let our hearts be secure through every human season. Let our hearts be secure in seasons of anguish as in seasons of joy, in seasons of failure as in seasons of success, in seasons of uncertainty as in seasons of security. Let our hearts be secure in this dual reality. We are worthy recipients of love and support we can never earn. And we are worthy providers of love and support others cannot earn. Let our hearts be secure, for hearts can energize our lives for more love and endless possibilities. Our virtual worship this morning has ended, but our connection to one another and the earth endures. Go blessed to be a blessing for others.